Hi guys. As you know, I said yesterday, if you watch those videos, that I had a few of these stories to tell. Well, what's happening is I just want to rush it now, guys, because they keep coming to my mind, and I think they might be almost done, the good ones anyway. But because I've got a lot of other things to do at the time, I don't want to dwell on these stories because they're quite morbid and sad. So if they do come to me over time, then obviously I'll think about it, recollect the memories, and then it'd be easy for me to just say those stories when they come. But at the moment, it's really hard to try and recall all these details in my mind. It's a lot of hard work to try and remember because these were a long time ago. The earliest ones are like 30 odd years ago. This one's from 1990 to 91. Because I think I left school at 92 or 91, effectively. Apart from yesterday's one was in 2000 or 1999, that being the earliest one. Okay, so what it was I was at school, high school, in the middle year or the lower or the last, I think it was middle. And some guy called Andrew, he'd come back from holiday or somewhere he'd been, I don't know where it was. Everyone said, Andy, yeah man, yeah, how's it going, man, you alright? You know, all that. And I always saw him as such a nice guy and is popular with everyone else because he liked everyone else. But unbeknownst to me, he didn't like me, he didn't like Muslims. You know? I said, Andy man, how's it going, man, you alright, yeah? Because everyone's saying, right, you know how it is at school, we're quite young then and we're just quite open and sociable and open-hearted. So if someone talks to someone and someone send alright to someone, we say it as well, don't we? It's like, yeah man, you alright man, dude, like trying to shake down that sort of attitude. And he was like, I don't know you. What are you speaking to me for? I don't know you. I said, yeah, but I've known you like since I started school, you know, I've seen you about, I've always known you, I know, you know, you're friends with my friends, stuff like that. But it's been really weird. It's like, yeah, but I don't know you. And everyone was surprised because these are all my friends as well. And people who I know quite well, you know. They were really good people, actually. They were like very well off, more intelligent. Like they were in the top sets. And I couldn't be as bothered with school subjects as much. I wasn't exactly dumb, but, you know, they were intelligent people. So they were like, Andy, what's wrong with you, sort of thing. And it got worse because it's like, I was like, why you been like that for though? I was just saying I like you. He goes, well, I don't like you. And everyone was thinking, that's a bit weird. And the girls who thought he was really cool, because everyone did think he was really cool, because generally to them, he was really funny, and selectively he was funny and nice to everyone else. But not us, you know? But we didn't know that. Because as far as we see, he's just, you know, a brown-haired, light-skinned English guy. But then the bombshell came. He goes, you're Bengali, aren't you? Yes. You're Asian, yeah? I was like, yes. So normally you're Muslim, right? And I think you are. Are you Muslim? I said, what's that got to do with it? And I was like, that's a bit confusing because no one even knew what Muslim or Allah or Muhammad or anything was at the time. You know, Ramadan, when we're fasting and stuff. For him to know was weird. Why would he know? No one else knew. You know, I'd explained it to the teachers when Ramadan came. So he said, you're Muslim, aren't you? I was like, yeah. He goes, well, we don't speak to you. I said, who? We. I was like, what are you? You know, as far as I could tell, you know, I'm thinking this is an English guy. What's he mean by you? He goes, I'm Jewish. We don't speak to you because we're Jews. And then the girls got rid of it. I was like, Andy, what you on about? What you been like that for? And his mates is like, Andy, that's really out of order. That's really wrong. What you on about? He goes, no, I don't like him. I don't like him. You know, they're persecuting our people and stuff like that. I was like, what? I said, what is that? Jew, I don't know nothing about that. He goes, well, in our lands, in Israel, this and that, and you're persecuting our people, it's always opposite. You know what I mean? It's like, it's quite the other way around, but, you know, I didn't even know that. We're not taught this, but they are. We're not taught this. I didn't know what they were. But they all knew because this had happened throughout my life at different times. You know, like once a guy tried to take me to his house, twice actually, to, you know, go and play on the computer and stuff. And both times the parents said, "Who are you? Your name's a bit different. You're brown skinned. Where are you from?" "Bangladesh." "Where my parents are." "Okay. What's your religion?" "Islam." "Do you follow it?" Yeah. I was only young, but I was like, yeah, I read the Quran, I get Quranic lessons, I pray, I do Ramadan. He goes, "Oh, Ben, you can't hang around with my son then. You can't hang around with my son." Just like that. To think of only the few people that I met, every single one of them done that. Yet they're indoctrinated into it and we're not. You know what I mean? And they keep saying it's us, not them. But they're taught it. But we know now. We know that. No, don't we? We've got more evidence than ever. The whole world knows now that it's them and not us. And this is, on a smaller scale, a perfect proof. Like an honest person like me just saying it how it is without any beef. Just saying, look, a little story that I'm telling and look how they were already back then. Nice enough guy to everyone. But saying, "Oh, we're doing this and that." I said, "I'm from Bangladesh, mate. I'm not from those lands." He's like, "I'm not bothered." I said, "I don't know anything about that because I'm not bothered." "You're a Muslim, though, aren't you?" "So you're part of that, aren't you?" I goes, "No, I'm not part of killing anyone. I do my prayers, pray my Ramadan, fast my Ramadan, that stuff. I do it for Allah. I pray Allah. I do it for religious reasons, for good reasons." And he was like, "Yeah, whatever." He just didn't want to know at all, to no extent. And I was like, "Well, I don't mind you. I don't hate you. You know, I like you. That's why I said right." He goes, "Well, I don't like you. And I don't want to speak to you," and stuff like that. And then I got, obviously by this time I was annoyed. And I couldn't say anything else. The girls had a go at him and started walking off. His mates were obviously with him, so they sort of said, "Shut up, Andy, what are you on about?" and this and that. That's really wrong. And some of them walked away and some of them hung around because, you know, they were going to go to the same class after the bell went. And intrigued, they hung around. Anyway, he wasn't having any of it. He's just saying, "No, I don't want to talk to you. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me ever again," that sort of thing. Well, I had this thing because I was a tough guy. I used to do kickboxing and taekwondo, karate, you know, jiu-jitsu, all that lot. And I was interested in my weapons, ninjutsu. Like I had a sword and the tonfa and the sticks, and I would have a suit and I'd go climbing up trees and all that lot. I was a tough guy because I was the only Asian, effectively. My family and another family, we were effectively the only Asians in a very small town, and we used to get a lot of racism, so we got tough, you know, and people knew from being tough. Anyway, I was very protective in the pursuit of justice and for people and my family. So if anyone ever started on anyone who was innocent, whatever it be, even if it was someone that hates me, like him, I would still have protected him if he was being attacked by someone. Or I would have felt compelled to. Maybe not in his case. I would have probably tried to walk away. But in fearing Allah Ta'ala, I probably would have thought, okay, I'll try and diffuse the situation. Because I've had it before, where someone I've disliked has been picked on someone, has been picked on by someone, and they're all alone. And I thought, they're all alone. And I'm going to be judged here if I don't do anything. So I said, "Oh, leave them alone." Especially as it was Asian. So I was like, "No, these are my people at the end of the day. These are Muslim people. I would have betrayed my brother." So even though they had, this guy specifically, he had beef with my family, we had beef amongst each other. But I stuck up for him in the circumstances where he was being oppressed. I jumped in. I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" That sort of thing, broke up the fight. As far as I remember, something like that. Or that's the example anyway. But, this is the problem, you see. I'll go off track explaining something and I forget where to come back. Anyway, it'll be about somewhere where Andy was saying that, and oh yeah, this is it. Because I used to be protective of people. I'm talking about innocent people. If I saw like a really wimpy kid walking along and someone started on him, I'd run in and hit the other guy. I'd say, "What are you doing?" Or hit the other guys. Give him a little kick to the leg, roundhouse, something like that, little punch around the shoulder area, not too hard. You know, not into a vulnerable point, just enough to say back off. If they didn't back off, then there would be a problem. But that would be their problem for not backing off. But the thing is, I used to always say to people when they're being horrible to me, okay, I used to love saying this because I knew Allah Ta'ala was always backing me up because it was justice. It was a way of justice, and I always used to say the same thing. I used to say, when he said that to me, He said, I don't want anything to do with you, basically. Never talk to me again, blah, 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 blah. So I said, okay, if that's how you feel, because I was quite a positive, nice person. So I said, instead of being hateful, I said, okay, if that's how you feel, I'll never stand up for you. I'll never protect you. I'll never look out for you. And I think he laughed. As far as I know, he laughed. Most people did. You know, it's like, you protect me. No, I'm talking about the ones who hate you. Obviously, the ones who hate you, like racist, like proper hateful people, Islamophobic and stuff like that. If you ever say anything like that, they laugh, don't they? Especially hypocrites. Like if you say, I won't look after you, I won't save you, and they just laugh, especially if it's something to do with so vague, like to do the future, like 20, 30 years later. It's like, I won't save you ever in my life. It's like, what? I will never stick up for you. It's like, you don't need to stick up for me. When are you going to need to do this? I don't need you to stick up for me, but Allah Ta'ala's plan is more beautiful. Because the very people who normally say, I don't need you to stick up for me, is the very people that will need you to stick up for them in future, because you were inspired to say it because of their injustice. It happens because of their injustice. That's where you feel compelled, inspired to say it. So when he said that to me, basically piss off, F off, you know, I don't want to know you, we hate you. Well, it's just him, but I'm like, what's we? It's the we, they're not agreeing to it anyway, but he's saying we hate you. As a people collectively, we hate you. So that annoyed me more, because it's like, oh, it doesn't matter that I'm an individual, an honest, innocent individual. You as a people hate me for the religion that we collectively share with the Palestinians. In this case, I'm assuming is the problem with the problem that they got with me. Him. So I said something like, I don't know what the term I used to use, I can't quite remember now, but I said something like, I won't stick up for you, man. Stick up for me where? Stick up for me when? Stick up for me what? Protect me from what? I said, you won't have my protection. I always protect my friends and I look after my friends. But if you ever need me, I won't do anything. If I see, for example, someone beating you up on the street or trying to kill you, I'm not going to do anything. Although I probably would if it was that level, like pull him out of the water or something, but begrudgingly I would do it. I don't think I could walk away and let him sink, although as much as I'd love to. Normally the taqwa comes in and I think, you know what? I'm going to have to do this, because Allah is going to say, why didn't you pull him out of the water? Why did you walk away from him? And then probably put me in a predicament as well, in a similar situation, or punish me. So I thought, I always, in the end, always think, okay, as much as, you know how it is, we hate something, hate someone, but when it comes to show mercy, we think, well, Allah Ta'ala showed us mercy, Allah Ta'ala will show us mercy, so we'll show mercy. So he basically, as far as I can tell, and as far as you can imagine and I can imagine, he just laughed, didn't he? It's like, save me from what? I don't need, you know, when someone hates you, the last thing they want is anything from you. You know what I mean? They don't want to touch anything you own, to have you do anything for them, you know what I mean? To even take your money because it's yours, they don't want it, you know what I mean? Even receive a gift, you know? So it's like, basically, it was along the lines of, I'll never need you. And this was always the case anyway, because that's what they always say. They would always say the same thing, because I got another story after this one of the same situation. Basically, they're like, this will never happen, or I'll never need you, or, you know, this is ridiculous to assume that there's some future time where, you know, what you're saying is going to have any relevance. So I said something like, I'll never protect you, never look out for you, because I don't need you. I don't need you to. I never need you to protect me, and something like that. I never need you to stand up for me. Like, you're looking at me really weird, like at this time. It's like, how absurd that you would even say that. You know, it's like looking at me from the side, like he's half walking away, like, and looking at me with his head turned towards me, and it's like, you know, like, just like thinking that's just ridiculous. I won't need you ever. And then I think he turned around and said something like, and even if I did, because they were intelligent guys, these guys were, they weren't thick, dumb in the sense. He said, even if I needed you, I wouldn't be asking you. To the point, I think he was saying or said, even if he did specifically say, I don't know, but it's like, I'd rather dive and ask you. And we know that that's how hate works. You know, I'd rather die than ask my worst enemy to help me out of, you know, a sand what you call it, sinking sand, you know, or something like that. It's like, you know, that sand, like, I forgot what the name is. Anyway, like, I'd rather die than ask you to give me a hand or pull me out or, you know, help me up or whatever. So, basically, to cut a long story short, because these are TikTok videos and, you know, I have to keep going into parts. He basically said, I don't need your help. I will never need your help. And basically, I would never ask you, basically, and basically express that I'd rather die than ask you anyway. So that was in about 1991 to 92 at the latest, because obviously this was still when I was at school, left school. Anyway, recently, 2023, he started arriving at the shop. I work in Poundland. And he started arriving at the shop. So I'm filling the shelves. Every now and again, he just arrives. And I'm thinking, I know this guy from somewhere. Same, he looks exactly the same. You know. But he's got grey at the side, on the temples and the side where the ears. And I'm thinking, I know this guy. Couldn't quite remember his name until people started mentioning it on Facebook. But he kept looking at me. Not in a bad way. And I couldn't even remember the situation. So I almost talked to him. I was like, oh, strange to see you in these parts. Because I know he doesn't work here. I know he doesn't live in the area because I never see him. Obviously, I'm going to the whole area, going to the mosque, going to my mum's, going to town, coming to work, you know, and the outskirts, going up the outskirts and stuff like that to my place and stuff. And I never see him anywhere. But being an old school pal, so to speak, you know what I mean? Like I said, I always liked him. He was a likeable guy normally. It's just that he has this ingrained hate. And most of them are likeable. You know what I mean? You'll see them as likeable people, but when you come to talk to them, they will have pre-ingrained hate and prejudice towards us. So I was thinking, oh, this is a surprise. Look at this guy. Because he's just standing there looking at me. You know, like when a kid approaches you and he wants to ask, or your child wants to ask you something, but is embarrassed to ask, like for another £10 or this and that, for another Roblox card or whatever it might be. So his approach, sorry, he comes up to the aisle where I'm working. So I'm like putting the computer, the phone cables and stuff onto the pins, onto the pegs and stuff like that. And he'll come and stand by my side. About, say, 6 steps away. And he'll just linger around. I think he's not even buying anything, and he never did. He'd hang around for a while, as if wanting to ask me something, and then he'd go. And he kept doing this. And then I find out on Facebook, he's committed suicide. Well, I don't know if he's committed suicide, but I don't want to talk about what happened. But he was all healthy and strong, and then he died. It could have been anything. But, oh yeah, I don't actually know if it's suicide, but it sort of fit the story that he needed help in the end, and he was coming to me to try and speak to me and ask me for help, but because of what he did and what he said, he couldn't have the help. Now I was thinking, what possibly could I help him with? You know, what can I help him with? I don't know what he wants, but I think Allah Ta'ala put him in a situation where he had something to say, whether it was just an apology. But I had forgot the story, because the story, you know, we're talking 33 years ago to nearly 34 years ago. So I had forgot, because my life's always been an adventure. I've only just got my feet back on the ground. You know what I mean? From the time for first half of my life was just tests and tests and tests, very obvious tests, like this situation where he picked on me and stuff like that. And people would just pick on me, I'd have trials and this and that. And then after school, it was just a whirlwind. I was just going through different phases, becoming different people, and spiritual things would keep happening. I would see things in dreams, and those would happen. I'd go all the way to Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, and weird things. I would see weird things. I'd have weird people talking to me, and then those people would disappear, and people would say there was no one there. You know what I mean? And then I'd find out that it was inspiration, like from an angel or something, saying this and that's going to happen, and then it really happens. Weird things like that. But anyway, so near enough, I've only just, by the grace of Almighty, got my feet back on the ground to the point that I can remember these people. I'm like, oh wow, you went to my school, didn't you? Yeah, I remember you from somewhere. This is me at work, because we live in a small town, local town. So when people turn up, suddenly I remember them vaguely. And I'm like, you know, when you're under stress, you're in your own little world, and these people start just rotating around you like outside of a whirlwind, and you don't really see that. But when everything slows down and the whirlwind stops, suddenly you've got all these people in front of you, and then you know where you've been spinning around, and suddenly everything stops, and then everything falls into place, and suddenly you got someone in front of you who's 30 years older, and you're looking at them thinking, you're from my past. You're a memory from my past. Who are you? You know what I mean? And I'm so grateful I didn't ask. Look at that. It'll even save me from asking him. I was going to say hi to him. I was going to say, all right, mate. I never knew him, but this is why I was so friendly to him that time as well. I never knew him, but I always knew him. You know, and he was really nice guy with everyone and stuff like that. And I thought, this guy's really ace. You know what I mean? This guy's really cool. But how horrible it was. The truth. Everyone thinks he's a nice guy, and that's how he was. But anyway, that's why I nearly did it again. Can you imagine? 33 years later, I nearly did it again. I see him, obviously, because he's just standing there right at me. So think about it like this, yeah. I'm facing forward on the aisle with cables, and I'm putting all the cables up. And he's to the right of me, and sometimes to the left of me, walks up and down. So when I look right, he'll be standing there, but facing me. And this is a weird thing. He's facing me. So he's facing down the aisle, where I'm facing at the shelf. You know, when you stack the shelf, you imagine you're stacking the shelf and someone is facing towards you, to the side of your head. So he's fully facing me. So he's turned fully, as in down the aisle, and he's facing me. And I'm thinking, first few times you don't realise it's just something that's happening in the background. You know, you're doing something and it's just standing there like that. But next time you're doing something, same area normally, and he's standing on the other side. And he just, every time I look at him, I see his flick his eyes back down. So I look at him, and sometimes I see him flick his eyes up and then flick him down. So to me, I'm thinking, this guy's, the way it seems to me, it's like, oh, this guy's looking at me and thinking, I know this guy. I know this guy from school, you know. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got a long beard now, and, you know, I've got white in my hair as well, and a fully white beard almost. So you're probably looking at me thinking, I vaguely remember this guy, but I've got my name badge on me, so for sure he's going to know. He's going to know me, because I'm the only Babalu in the whole school, so in the whole town, so he's going to know. So he knows, you know what I mean? Especially with so much hate, he's going to remember. You know, so he's looking at me, but in his normal nice way, not with hate, but he never did. That's why it's so hidden, and I didn't know. I didn't know he was full of hate, because he does it without hatefulness. So I looked at him after a while. I'm thinking, why is this guy doing here? To tell you the truth, guys, I didn't even realise until I found out he'd passed away, because it made me wonder what he was doing. Because I haven't seen him for the 33 years. I haven't seen him. So how come he suddenly knows where I am, suddenly turns up, and he just stands there waiting to say something? In other words, I believe he was pushed, as in to say, you can apologise to him and you'll be alright, you'll be guided before you die. You know what I mean? You can apologise for what you said, Or your time's coming soon, but I've had it set up in such a way that you need to talk to him if you're really a good guy and you want to know the truth, because he'll tell you the truth, which I would have. You know what I mean? If he came up to me, because I didn't even know our history, so if he came up to me and said, "Yo, I feel compelled, I think by God, to ask you some questions about life and death, and that you tell me the truth about the real religion and the real God," and I would have said, "La ilaha illallah, there you go, buddy. See you later." You know what I mean? All done. Allah is your God, Muhammad is your messenger. Internet's rife. Go and check it out. You know what I mean? 30 years ago, you couldn't. There was nothing like that 30 years ago. You know what I mean? You had to believe what your people said. But now you can go and check it out. So, I think it was a sign. It was clearly a sign, obviously, because he'd just stand there. He wouldn't buy anything, guys. He would come in the shop, hang around for a good 10-20 minutes, sometimes longer, because he was trying to pluck up courage. So he'd walk right to the end of the aisle, and as I'd look, I'd see him pretending to look at the chocolates, but turning his head and looking at me. You know, when you're trying to, it's not like he was trying to kill me. Now someone could say maybe he had a dagger in his bag or whatever he had. I don't know if he did, but have a bag. But I'm just saying, it's like I'm going, but I'm finishing this guy off before I go. But why? Why come 33 years afterwards, and why kill me? Why not kill someone random? You know what I mean? Someone who looks more the part that you could recognise easier. As a Muslim, oh, look at this guy in the long thobe, let me go and do these guys and a whole gang. No, he didn't do anything like that. Neither did he kill anyone. Or he would have been on Facebook for a different reason. No, everyone's saying, oh, I can't believe, man, Andy, man. Oh, you know what happened? One reason I said suicide is I remember someone saying, why didn't he speak to me? I think it was his girlfriend. Why didn't he speak to me? Why didn't he say something? So you'd think it's suicide, don't it? Why didn't you say something? I've checked. I've given it a few months and I checked and I can't find anything about the reason. And normally when it's like that, not a lot of people say the reason. Because if it was cardiac arrest or car crash or stuff, people say it, you know. Even normal people who say, oh, my life, the roads are dangerous these days or something like that. No one said anything like that. No one said anything like it. So he just stands there, lingers around, but is eyeballing me for sure. Not in a horrible way, just literally, you know, if you're waiting to talk to someone and ask them something in a nice sort of way, or for a favour or something, you're just waiting patiently and they would ask. In this case, it's all that, but he's not asking. So I look, as in, oh, this guy's still here. I look at him. He looks for a brief moment for recognition, hoping that I would say something. So I look at him and then look away. Something tells me that we've conversed before on a subconscious level. Like I said, that'll save me from speaking to him, because I would have been kicking myself now from that point of view, to say, oh my life, this guy did all that to me, said all that, and I was the one 33 years later saying, how's it going, mate? Same thing, oh, I know you from school, you're Andy, you're a nice guy, weren't you? And that's exactly how the conversation started last time. And it's like, get lost, you know what I mean? Weird thing is, but it's only Allah Ta'ala who reminded me when I got back home who this guy was. So I'm going about my day, probably about to go to work, get ready, and he suddenly reminded me who Andy was. And basically, he put the conversation over into my head. It's like, remember this conversation about that guy? And I'm like, is that true? You know how he slowly reveals it to you? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's cool, yeah. Okay, yeah. And he said that. And he said, you guys, hey, you go, I thought, oh, that guy, that's that guy. Oh, I'm grateful I didn't speak to him. It's horrible. I said, like, did that really happen then? So over the next few weeks, bits of information was going, it evolved until all the pieces come together. And I thought, oh, my life, that's that guy. And he said all those things 33 years ago. I've totally forgot. That's the guy I was going to speak to just before he died. That's the guy I was going to speak to. You know what I mean? I was like, no, thank you. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad I didn't speak to you. That's how I felt. I was like, oh my life, I was going to do the work again. Even if it's a good outcome, I thought I was going to do the work again. All I'm saying is I work bothered if I helped him or I was going to help him. My problem was in me doing the talking first, because I'll tell you exactly what I was going to say. I saw him, and because I'd seen him a few times now, I was going to say, all right, mate. I didn't know his name at the time. I was like, all right, mate, how's it going? Yeah, you're right. Remember me from school? And he was going to say, yeah, man, how's it going? You're right. I was going to say, so what you do around here? I mean, you don't work around here. I don't see you on the way or anything, but here you are in the shop, that sort of thing. He's not buying anything. I wasn't going to say you're not buying anything, but I was going to say, what you doing around these parts then? Because you don't work this way, do you? Like, he never works in town or anything, but somehow he ends up in town about 5 o'clock and he hangs around for that brief amount of time and then he goes, gone. Like he's travelling in and then going. It's like, where's he travelling from then? Because surely not in the area. It's definitely not in my area because I've never seen him once in all those years. I might have seen him all the way back there, here and there, when, you know, we've just left school and people are going to people's houses and stuff like that before they got married and before they got kids and stuff. But other than that, I'd never seen him. And suddenly, out of the blue, this guy appears. Just before his time to go. He just randomly appears. Let me pause this video. I'll come back to it. Or else this video is going to get long. I want to sort of not ramble on about the same thing, but I want to sort of remember and then condense it and finish the story off.